just even since I've been in office, which was April '07, but unfortunately, I can't tell you how much. We have to hand count everything to give you accurate numbers, and it's very, very frustrating to be in this position because these are numbers that we should be able to give people. And I do know that the sheriffs work very closely with CPS. The question about the children might be better answered by Tom, but they are called out, and they have really gotten into a very good working relationship with the officers, so that if there are children involved, that they will be taken into safety. And they work very hard. The CPS workers really deserve a lot of applause for what they do for our county.
Thank you. And to our medical panel, I believe we're looking at sort of pros and cons on the use of cannabis here. What is the pH of cannabis? Tar and carcinogens, dried versus fresh benefits. Now, I don't know how to say that any better than that because that's the way the question was asked. But if we're looking at dried plant versus fresh plant, maybe we're looking at topical applications, maybe we're looking at different methods of ingesting or smoking. But does the pH of it have anything to do with it? Dr. Trotter.
I have no idea.
Here's your professional.
I would think that your pH in your stomach of being 1 or 2 would negate any difference there might be between different pHs. I do know from Ralph Cantor that ingested marijuana will cause much more of a hallucinogenic effect than smoked.
So we get different effects as to how it's taken.
Yeah, I don't
Any
think
other
the
comments
pH
from the medical panel on that? Sir. Dr. Courtney.
If the tar is in reference to inhaled, there were a lot of research done over the last 10, 20 years anticipating that cannabis would cause cancer. The way you inhale it and hold it, you deposit 4 times as much tars, and the procarcinogens are at least double of what they are in tobacco. So Taskin, through numerous studies over the years, had predicted that cancer would be an outcome of smoking cannabis. He finally did a definitive study. He had 1,200 people with cancer, 1,200 without, and it turns out that the anti-tumor effects of cannabis completely negate the fact that you have a lot of tars deposited and you have a lot of procarcinogens present. And there was actually a negative correlation that he found that the air in Los Angeles is more carcinogenic, and that there's a probability that heavy smoking of cannabis would protect you from the carcinogens in the air.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. The air of Los Angeles is beyond the pale. But please stay at the mic a second. There's a related question. Are there any reliable data raise smoking marijuana and respiratory illness?
Not only is there a negative correlation with cancer and a purported protective ability of cannabis, with COPD there was no increased incidence. There is a bronchitis due to the heat and irritation, and it's my opinion that vaporization is a much better way to go, and you can separate the cannabinoids by their boiling temperature. So if you're not interested in the euphoric effect, you can remove the THC, which boils at 157 degrees centigrade, and you can collect the CBD that boils at 188. So that you can have the antispasmodic and pain relief without any of the euphoric complications if you need daytime use or relief, say, if you're around power tools or whatever. So vaporization is a much better way to go in that regard.
And then you wouldn't cough?
There's a very small percentage of people that do cough with vaporization, but in general, 90% of the people find it much less irritating because you don't have the products of combustion present.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. To our environmental panel, are you familiar with mycoremediation? I do believe this is using fungi to clean up oil spills. It was used during cleanup of bay oil spills and can be used for diesel spills. To our environmental panel, Jim?
Oh boy. Both bioremediation and mycoremediation are very complicated issues. It depends on the concentration of the contamination, the kind of soil that you're dealing with. Is it sandy? Is it loamy? Is it clay? What are you dealing with? A lot of variables, and I really caution people if they're going to try some kind of remediation, bioremediation or whatever on an oil or a diesel or whatever kind of hydrocarbon spill, that you try to get as much help before you do it as you can.
Okay, so that's not something to be undertaken lightly. I believe to Mr. Liniger here, compare wine grapes. Let me rephrase. Let me turn this into English. What is the relative use of water to raise wine grapes versus raising of marijuana?
Yeah, I was anticipating that question, actually. With wine grapes, it really varies because a large percentage of the amount of water that's used to grow the grapes is used during the frost season for frost protection, a large percentage. So like this past year where we had the worst frost year in over 30 years, we had the growers using a large proportion of their water for frost protection to the point that some are running out. They can't actually irrigate the vines. But to get to the nitty gritty, wine grapes, you're looking at about 1 acre foot per year. That's an average frost year. And I'm using the number for hemp because there really aren't any reliable numbers.
Excuse me, is that for one plant?
No,